Decimals. Decimals to fractions. The method. First, we're going to put the decimal over 1. Next, multiply the top and bottom number by 10 for every number after the decimal. So let's look at this first example. Example 1. Convert 0.2 to a fraction. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this 0.2, we're going to put it over 1, and then we're going to multiply it by 10 on the top and 10 on the bottom. And we only need 110 because there's only one number after the decimal, which is just the 2. So when this gets multiplied out, 0.2 times 10, right? So if we go 10 times 0.2, 0 times 2 is 0. 2 times 1 is 2. Now we need to take care of the one decimal number, place value. So we're going to move the decimal over 1, and we get 2. So that's on the top. So we have 2, and we multiply that out. And then we're going to multiply this 1 times 10, which is just equal to 10. And then we notice that it's 2 over 10. But we're going to reduce because both are even. So both can be divided by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is equal to 1. 10 divided by 2 is equal to 5. And this would be our final answer to this. By converting 0.2 to a fraction is just saying 1 over 5. Let's look at another example. Example 2. If 0.75 of a pizza remains, how could this be represented as a fraction? Well, we're going to put this 0.75 over 1. Then we're going to multiply it by 2 tens. Now, if you multiply anything by 2 tens, like say 10 times 10, that's equal to 100. So instead of just doing 10, we're going to actually just do a whole 100. So we don't have to do 10 times another 10. So it saves us a whole step. So we're going to put the 100 on the bottom, so whatever we do at the top, we do the bottom. And then we can go ahead and multiply. So we're going to go ahead and multiply this top number, and we'll multiply the bottom number. Well, 100 times 0.75 0 times 5 is 0. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 1 is 5. And then we move, and we have our placeholder of 0. Then we move on. 7 times 0 is 0. 7 times 0 is 0. 7 times 1 is 7. Now we add 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 0 is 0. 5 plus 0 is 5. And then it's just 7. Now we need to take account into our decimal. So we have 2 decimal place values. So we need to move the decimal over to the left twice. So we got 75. So we're going to go back up here and write 75 for the top number. Then on the bottom, 1 times 100 is 100, because anything times 1 is itself. And now we just need to reduce. So we notice that both of these numbers end in a 0 and a 5. So both can be divided by 5. So 75 divided by 5. So let's go ahead and do 75 divided by 5. 5 can go into 7 one time. 5 times 1 is 5. We subtract, we get 2. Now we need to bring down the 5. Now 5 can go into 25 5 times, because 5 times 5 is 25. Then we get 0. And so we get 15 on the top. And now 100 divided by 5. So if you think about how many nickels do you need to get to $1, well, you need 20. Now, if you aren't sure, you can always go ahead and do this again, but I like to think about it in terms of money because sometimes that works for me. So let's just confirm. So 5 can go into not 1, but it can go into 10 2 times, because 5 times 2 is 10. We subtract, we get 0. Bring down the other 0. So 5 can go into 0 0 times. So now we get 15 over 20, which we can actually still divide. So we need to go ahead and divide 15 over 20 and divide the top and the bottom by 5 again. So what does this equal? 15 divided by 5 is equal to 3. 20 divided by 5 is equal to 4. And this would be our final answer then. So 0.75 is the same as saying 3/4. Now let's do another example. Example 3. But before that, let's go over a math trick. We're going to move the decimal point to the right 1 place for every 10 that is multiplied by the decimal. So we're going to convert 0.11 to a fraction. So we're going to take this 0.11. We're going to put this over 1 like we've done. Then we're going to multiply it by 100 on the top and the bottom, because we have two numbers after the decimal point. Now, we're going to move the decimal point not just to the right rather than just doing the multiplication. So instead of multiplying this 0.11 times 100, we know we just need to move it over to the right twice because we have it being multiplied by 100, because we're going to move it over 1 for every 10, and for here we have 2 10s because 2 10s being multiplied is 100. So this just becomes 11 over 1 times 100 is 100. And then this is our final answer because 11 is a prime number and it is not a factor of 100. Example 4. Convert 1.6 to a fraction. So this time we have a number before the decimal. So same rules apply. So we have 1.6. We put it over 1. Then we're going to just multiply it by 10 on the top and the bottom, because there's only one number after the decimal. So 1.6 times 10 is now 16, because we move it to the right, just the 1, because we multiply by 10. And then we get 1 times 10, which is then 10. So we get a number that's larger on the top than the bottom, which is what we should get because it's 1.6. So we have a whole number plus a decimal, or part of a whole. So we take the 16 over 10. We notice it's both even on top and bottom. So let's go ahead and divide it by 2. 16 divided by 2 is equal to 8. 10 divided by 2 is equal to 5. So then this would be our final answer.